Hello, students. So let's talk about solving two-step equations. Now, as you can see, I wrote here the steps. So when we solve equations, our goal is to always isolate the variable, okay? So for us to isolate the variable, we need to look at the variable side of the equation. So here are the steps. First step is to simplify. So simplify, it's either by applying the distributed property or we combine like terms. So when we see a number outside the parentheses just like this, then that's when we do which means to apply the distributed property. That means we multiply 5 into x, multiply 5 into 3. Okay? Now, either or, we also need to do combining like terms. Now, combining like terms means that we need to either add or subtract. Oops. We need to either add or subtract like terms. When you say like terms, it means that the terms have the same variable and the same exponent, or both are constants. Okay? Now, the second one is to undo the constant. So hopefully we know what the constant is. Okay? So a constant is just a number without any variable attached to it. So we either add or subtract the constant. So undo means we use inverse operation. So if we see addition, we subtract. If we see subtraction, we add. Now the third step is to undo the operation um, by either option A, multiply the denominator. Okay. So if we see a division problem, so we multiply the denominator. If we see a multiplication problem, then we divide by its coefficient. If it's a fraction attached to the variable, then that means we use the reciprocal. So we multiply by its reciprocal. So these are the steps. Now let's try number one. Oops. Let's try number one. Oh boy. Here we go. 1. So we have negative 2x plus 6 is equal to 14. So remember, there's two sides of the equation, right? On the left side and the right side. Now on the variable side, we see that we have a plus 6. So this is our constant. Now, before anything else, do we see any thing that needs to be simplified? Nope. Are there any like terms on this side? No, because this is a constant and this one has a variable and a coefficient. So these two terms are not the same. So we can just move on to step 2. Now, step 2 says undo the constant. Plus 6 is the constant. So we undo it. We do the opposite operation. So minus 6. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side. Then we simplify that. So we got 0. These are opposites. What's left is negative 2x is equal to, what's 14 minus 6? And that should give us 8. Now, next step is to either these three options. Our goal is to multiply, it's to isolate the variable. So that means we need to do what? We divide the coefficient, because this is a multiplication problem. It's negative 2 times x. So we need to do the opposite. So we're dividing by negative 2, which is a coefficient. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other. Now, this simplifies to just 1x or x. And 8 divided by negative 2 will give you a negative 4. So this will be your answer. Fairly easy. Now, I do notice that I said that we're doing two-step equations and we have 3 steps in here. I get that part. Normally, we're just doing this two right here, but some problems in the textbook do have these options where we need to combine like terms first before we do the 2 steps. Okay, so technically, this is a solving multi-step equations. Now, it says here check the solution. So let's check. So when we check, what do? We just need to substitute the value of x into the variable. So we use the original equation, and then I'm going to substitute the value of x, which is negative 4, so negative 2 times negative 4, because remember, negative 2x is a product of negative 2 times x, plus 6 is equal to 14. Apply our rules of integers. Negative 2 times negative 4 gives you a positive 8, plus 6 equals to 14. Is 8 plus 6 14? Absolutely. 8 plus 6 is equal to 14. So our answer is correct. Now let's try to do number 2. Now, for number 2, I still have the steps right here, so don't forget. Always on the variable side, we have two sides of the equation. Now, simplify by adding or by applying distributive or combining like terms. Do we see any like terms on this side? No, we don't. One is a constant, and the other one is x over 6. It has a variable on it. On the other side, it only has one term, which is 5/3. So now let's move on to step 2. Undo the constant. And we know our constant is 1/3. So undo means use the opposite operation. This is a minus 1/3. So that means we need to add 1/3. So whatever you do on one side, you do on the other. Now, as you notice, we're adding fractions. If we're adding, do we have the same denominator? Obviously, yes. So that means we can just add the numerators right away. Okay? So 5/3 plus 1/3 will give us 6. Oops, sorry. Will give us 6/3. Equal sign. These are opposites, so that simplifies to 0. And what's left is x over 6. Now, what do you notice on this side? We notice that this is a division bar. So that means on step 3, we're going to do its opposite, which is to multiply the denominator, because the opposite of division is multiplication. But before we do that, let's simplify what we have first. What's 6 over 3 simplified to? Can you simplify that into a whole number? So 6 over 3 is the same thing as saying 6 divided by 3. So that gives us 2. So from here, we can multiply by its denominator. So we multiply by 6, we multiply by 6, because this is our denominator. Now we can simplify this 2 into 1, x or just x, which is equal to 2 times 6 is, 2 times 6 is 12. So our answer is negative 12. Now, if we check, let me delete this part. So if we check, let me delete that part. So if we check, would we get the right answer if we checked it? So let's figure that out. Let me erase this part. There we go. Now we're back in track. So let's check. I need some space for the fraction part. So we got x over 6 minus 1/3 is equal to 5/3. Now remember, we need to substitute the value of x, which is 12. Now let's do that. 12 over 6 minus 1/3 is equal to 5/3. But we can simplify 12 over 6, right? Make it easier for us. 12 over 6 is the same thing as 12 divided by 6. So this is 12 divided by 6. So that gives us a value of whole number 2. Minus 1/3 is equal to 5/3. Now remember, a whole number is a improper fraction, meaning it has a denominator of 1. Now we need to simplify this too. It says 2 minus 1/3. Now there's a couple of ways to approach this, but let's just do the usual way of doing it. We need to find the common denominator. What's the common denominator of 1 and 3? And we know it is 3. So what did we multiply to 1 to get 3? We multiplied 1 by 3. So if we did that, we do the same at the top. So 2 times 3 is 6 minus. Then what do we multiply to 3 to get 3? And we multiply that by 1. So we do the same at the top. 1 times 1 is 1. Now, what's 6 minus 1? That's going to be 5/3 is equal to 5/3. So our answer is absolutely right. So please review on how to add or subtract fractions as well. You can find a lot of videos on YouTube for those topics. Now, let us do number 3. Now, number 3, let's look at the variable side. Do we need to simplify either this side or the other side? Separate that. Do we need to simplify anything? Yes or no? That's a no. Exactly. So we're done with that. Now let's undo the constant. What is the constant here? It's going to be minus 3. So undo means to do the opposite. So we're going to add 3. So that means we're going to add 3 on this side. If we're adding 3, that means this becomes a 0. What's left is negative 9 over 10p is equal to. Now, when we're adding, this becomes a what? It's a whole number plus a fraction. So technically, it's going to be 3 and 3/5, right? So let's check that out. 3 and 3/5. Because it's the whole number added to the proper fraction. Now, let's change this into an improper fraction to make it easier for us. Okay, so 5 times 3 is 15 plus 3, that's going to be 18 over 5, and then copy the rest of the problem. Now, you need to practice your multiplying and dividing fractions as well, because we will do that a lot in 7th grade. Now, let me erase this part so I have more space to do the work. We're done with step 1. We're done with step 2. Now we'll do step 3. Now, are we going to multiply the denominator? Are we going to divide by the coefficient? Or are we going to multiply by its reciprocal? And option 3, we multiply by the reciprocal because this is a fraction attached to the variable. So we use the reciprocal. There's a lot of methods to do this, but let's just do the usual way. Now, let me delete this part right here so I have more space to work on. Oops, click that. All right, now cut that. Okay, so now let's try to use the reciprocal. Okay, so we're going to multiply by negative 10 over 9. Reciprocal means we flip it. We have negative 10 over 9. Now, these two will simplify into 1, right? That's going to be just 1p. Now, in this case, right here, I want to do cross simplifying. Now, you can do 18 times negative 10, but that's a big number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do cross simplifying. And this is how I do it. I look at my numerator. Oops, let me undo that part. I look at my numerator and its opposite denominator. What is the greatest common factor I can divide into 18 and 9? And that's going to be 9. I can divide 18 and 9 by 9, and I would get a whole number. 9 divided by 9 will give me a 1. 18 divided by 9 will give me 2. Now, let's do the other side. The numerator and its opposite denominator. What number can we simplify? Can we divide into 10 and 5 evenly? And that's going to be 5. So 5 divided by 5 gives me 1. Negative 10 divided by 5 will give me a negative 2. Now I can simplify. Now I can multiply straight across. So I'm going to use this pencil right here. I'm going to do 2 times negative 2 is a negative 4, and 1 times 1 is a 1, or our answer is negative 4. Now, let's check if it's right. Oh, but before that, what if you don't want to cross simplify? If you don't want to cross simplify, your answer would look like this. Okay, let me show you that. Negative 10 over 9. So you're going to do 18 times negative 10 is negative 180. And that's going to be 5 times 9. That's going to be 45. Now we need to simplify. So you do long division. Oh, 180 divided by 45. Or you can say 45 plus 45 gives me 90. So 2 of those gives me 180. So it's going to be negative 4. So I mean, that's a lot of process versus just doing the cross simplifying. So you can do that too. Okay. Now let's check if our answer is right. Let's write our original equation. So this is our checking. We got negative 9 over 10p minus 3 is equal to 3/5. So what is the value of our p? The value of our p is negative 4. So we will be doing negative 9/10 times negative 4 over 1. Let's just do that. Minus 3 is equal to 3/5. Now let's simplify this. What is negative 9 times 4 and 10 times 1? Or What if you say, hey, can I use cross simplifying? Definitely, because it's easier to work with fractions if you already simplify it. So let's look at our numerator and its opposite denominator. What number can we evenly divide into 4 and 10? And it's 2. We divide by 2. We divide by 2. This even number, right? So negative 4 times 2 will give us, negative 4 divided by 2 will give us, yeah, it's up negative 2. 10 divided by 2 will give us, and that's going to be a 5. Now we can multiply straight across. So negative 9 times negative 2, that will give us a positive 18. 5 times 1, that will give us a 5. Minus 3 over 1 is equal to 3/5. Now, let's subtract these. So what is 18 over 5 minus 3 over 1? What should we do? Find the common denominator. We can do that. There's a lot of ways to approach this, but let's just do this method. So let's find the common denominator of 5 and 1. And we know it is, yep, 5. Now, what did you multiply to 5 to get 5? And that's just 1, right? So that's going to be 18 still. The minus sign, copy that. What did you multiply to 1 to get 5? And we know it is 5. So we multiply by 5. So 3 times 5 is 15. 18 minus 15 gives you 3 over 5, which is equal to 3 over 5. And our answer is correct. So just review that. Number 4. Okay, let's start. So it says combine like terms. This is number 4. So combine like terms first before solving. Okay, so this is our step 1. We don't need to do applying distributive. We just need to do combining like terms. Now, which terms are the same? And that's going to be 2x and minus 9x. Remember, when we combine like terms, we either add or subtract the same term. The same terms means they have the same they have the same variable and the same exponent. Okay, remember, there's two sides. One's the left side and the right side of the equation. So what is 2x minus 9x? If I were to rewrite this, it would look like this. 2x minus 9x plus 5 is equal to 33. So I'm going to simplify this too. The signs are different, so that means this will be a negative 7x plus 5 is equal to 33. Now let's do step 2. It's either we add or subtract the constant, and the constant is plus 5. So we subtract 5 on both sides. That's a 0. They're opposites. What's left is negative 7x is equal to, what is 33 minus 5? And that should give us 28. Now, what do we do next? Step 3. Step 3 means is either do we do option A, B, or C? And this is negative 7 times x, so we do option B. Opposite of it is to divide by its coefficient. So we divide by negative 7. Okay, so that's going to be negative 7 over and then negative 7. So negative 7 divided by negative 7, that simplifies to 1 is equal to 28 divided by negative 7. That should give you negative 4. So our answer is x is equal to negative 4. Now, let's do number 5. Now, so number 5, oops. Now, number 5, let's combine like terms. And our like terms would be 3/4 h minus 1/2 h. So once we do this, when we subtract, we need to have the same denominator. Do we have the same denominator? We do not have the same denominator. So we need to find a common denominator. And our common denominator is what? Absolutely. Between 4 and 2, it's 4. Now, what did you multiply to 4 to get 4? We multiply by 1. Because 4 times 1 is 4, so it stays the same. So 3 times 1 is 3h. Now the minus sign. Now what did you multiply to 2 to get 4? And that is 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, so 1 times 2 is 2h. Now we have 3h minus 2h will give us 1h, or just h over 4 is equal to negative 8. Now remember, this is a division bar, so what do we do next? Oh, do we need to do step the add or subtract the constant? There's no constant on the variable side, so we just move on to the last step, which is to either use inverse operation. So this is division, so we multiply by its denominator, which is 4. So times 4 and times 4. Oops, there we go. That's times 4. So that simplifies to just h is equal to negative 8 times 4 will give you negative 32. And we are done. Okay, that's number 5. Now let's try to do number 6. Number 6, oops. Now in here, we need to do our, oops, not one, highlighter. We need to do our step 1, which is to simplify by applying the distributive property. So we see a variable, we see a factor outside the parentheses, right? So what we need to do is we need to multiply negative 2/3 into x and negative 2/3 into 3/5. So it's going to look like negative 2/3 times x plus negative 2/3 times 3/5 is equal to 1/2. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this, so hopefully you know what to do. Now, we have negative 2/3 times x is the same thing as saying negative 2/3 x. Now, for this case, we can cross simplify too. We have 3 and 3, right? So what number can you divide into 3 and 3? And that's going to be 1. That's going to be 3. So 3 divided by 3 will give us 1. 3 divided by 3 will give us 1. So now we can multiply negative 2 times 1 is good. It's going to be a negative 2 over 1 times 5. It's going to be a 5. 2/5 is equal to 1/2. Now, let's simplify. This is a bit confusing if you have a plus and a minus sign. That simplifies to what? Exactly, that simplifies to just a minus sign. So we do negative 2/3 x minus 2/5 is equal to 1/2. Now, let's do step 2. Undo the constant. We have a constant. Our constant is minus 2/5. So we'll do the opposite. Plus 2/5 plus 2/5. Now this is a 0. They're opposites. What's left is negative 2/3 x is equal to, now, when we add these two fractions, do we have the same denominator? We don't. So that means we need to find a common denominator, which is 10. Now, what did you multiply to 5 to get 10? We multiplied by 2. So 2 times 2 is 4 at the top, so 4/10. What did you multiply the 2 to get 10? And that's going to be 5. So we also multiply the numerator by 5. Now we got 5 plus 4 is 9 over 10. So we are done with number 2. Now let's do the third step. We need to use the reciprocal because it's a fraction form, right? Now, let's do the reciprocal. So we flip the number, negative 3 over 2. And we'll also multiply this by negative 3 over 2. This simplifies to just x is equal to. Now, can we cross simplify these terms? We can't. There's no common number that we can divide evenly into those factors. So we can just multiply straight across. 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. 10 times 2 is 20. So our answer is negative 27 or 20. If it's asking you for a mixed number, 20 can go into 27 one time, and our remainder is 7. So our answer is negative 27 over 20, or negative 1 and 7 over 20. So that is our number 6. Now, just review the video if you want to go over the steps again. Now, let's do the last number, number 7. So how can we apply solving equations in geometry? So a perimeter of a rectangle is 24 feet. What is the width of the rectangle? So when we say perimeter, that means we're adding all the sides, right? we're adding this length, this length, this width, and this width. We're adding all these sides, all four sides. Now, if this side is 8 feet, that means the top should also be 8 feet. It says, what is the width? So we're looking for the width. Do we know the width? We don't. So we represent the width with W. So W is represented by the width. Okay, so this is our W, and this is our W. So since we know that perimeter means adding all sides, so let's add all sides. 8 plus 8 plus W plus W is equal to 24 feet, right? So 8 plus 8, let's simplify, combine like terms. 8 plus 8, that gives us 16. Plus, what other like terms do we have? W plus W. How many W's do we have now? We have 2 W's, which is equal to 24. So now let's apply the two-step equations. What should we do first? We need to undo the constant, and the constant is 16. So it's positive 16. What's the opposite of positive 16? Minus 16. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side. So that's a 0. What's left is 2W is equal to 24 minus 16 will give us 8. Then we need to isolate the variable, right? So let's do the opposite. 2W means 2 times W. So that means we need to divide by its coefficient. So that's going to be divided by 2 and divided by 2. So W is equal to 4 feet. So our width is 4 feet. Now, if you add all the four sides right now, 8 plus 4 is 12. Then another 12, that will give us 24 feet. And we are done. So please review these steps and also review the video again if you have to. Okay? Hope this helps.